Well, we obviously coming off a tough loss last night, played a good FAU team, swung the bat well. Um, we left a ton of guys on base and didn't do well with guys in scoring position, which we had done a pretty good job of. But it's baseball, you're not going to hit, all the time with guys on base, but we turn the page and get ready for Florida this weekend, which is always a big series for us. It's a good gauge, good test for the beginning of the season to see kind of where we're at. They're playing well. They've got a very good team, as they always do. Looks like they're swinging the bat well, and of course their pitching's always strong. So it'll be a good test for us going on the road playing them.
Do you know what is the message to your team when you got guys in scoring position, 1 out, 2 out in the inning, especially against a team like Florida this week?
Well, last night it was just, I thought we were very anxious. We swung at, we'll say, 15 first pitches, which is a little high for us. And I don't have no problem with our guys swinging at first pitch if they're good pitches to hit. But again, the game's not on TV like it is. We got to watch the video. It hasn't come up yet. But we were not hitting balls hard. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say they probably weren't good pitches to hit. So I think there was a lot of anxiousness. I thought we just didn't give very good at bats when we had guys in scoring position. But that was the message, just not being so anxious. There's a couple guys, just a couple. Most of our guys have been swinging the bat pretty good, but there's a few that have been struggling. You can see they're frustrated, and they're guys that hit very important spots in our lineup, and we need them to relax. It's a long season. My goodness, most of the guys are in 30 at bats, 35 at bats. I think the most we have is 40 right now. These guys will end up with over 200 at bats in the season. So it's a long season. One thing you can't do is get anxious and try to put so much pressure on yourself that I got to crank out 5 hits today. That's just not going to work. It's all about just putting a good approach at the plate, and that carries over.
On the topic of 5 hits, I guess, I wanted to ask about Dorian and Ian. They both were taken out of the lineup. What did you notice about their reaction to when they were taken out of the lineup initially, and how they've responded since getting
Dorian
back?
and
Ian.
Ian?
Yeah.
Well, Ian responded pretty good yesterday. Of course, Ian had been put in the lineup a few times here and there. He had been struggling, no doubt, but he worked with Lopes and made some adjustments. But he had a good day yesterday. He hit the ball hard a few times. Had a couple of balls that fell in. That went a ground ball that went through the infield that was hit okay, and another blooper. But that's how you get 5 hits. Normally, it's not 5 scorching balls. But it's got to help his confidence. He's a guy that we're counting on to be kind of a middle lineup guy for us, and supply power, which he did last night, hitting the home run. Yeah, Dorian is just, it's one of those things where Dorian did very well for us last year, and we have a lot of confidence in Dorian. But we gave Blake Sear an opportunity. Blake's very talented, and Blake took advantage of it. He's one of our top hitters, one of our top RBI guys, and one of our top hitters. It's hard to take him out of the lineup when he's doing that well. So, you got Ian now who's kind of a DH guy. Dorian is more of the defender, certainly, and we put him in late in the game last night for Blake. But, you could see a kind of a rotation or a platoon there. We're going to try to put the best 9 guys out there. That's going to help us win that particular day. So that's why you've seen that. But both guys, Dorian's kind of kid that he's not going to fold the tent on us or anything like that, and it's still early in the season. And I had a talk with him yesterday, as a matter of fact, and he understands. He's the kind of guy that when he gets his opportunity, he knows he's going to take advantage of it.
Hey, Gino, you got a big early season series against UF. How much emphasis do you put on a series that's that big that early? And B, how tough is this series going to be?
Well, it's always tough. I mean, you're not going to get crowned a national champion this weekend. We all understand that. But I was saying earlier that it is a gauge. It is where you kind of get a feel for where you're at early in the season. But we all know where you're at early in the season has no bearing on where you're at the end of the season, because we were probably one of the hotter teams of the season, probably at the first half of the season, right around the midpoint, and we kind of struggled towards the end a little bit. So it's kind of a process. You want to keep getting better and better. But these are big series. These are our rivals. And certainly, it's a great way for us. And I told our guys last night, got a great opportunity to bounce back after a tough loss last night. And you're playing a highly ranked team on the road, like Florida. It's a rival. So I would think it's going to be pretty intense and should be exciting.
Any decisions on the starting rotation that you can
For
say?
us?
Yeah.
We're going to go with the same rotation we've gone with the first 2 weekends.
Any thoughts to changing it, or you're just comfortable with how it is?
I'm not comfortable about anything as a head coach. I'm never comfortable. No, I mean, it's too early right now to be doing that. Gage obviously hasn't thrown maybe up to where we'd like, but he did come back after having a tough inning in his last outing and had pitched very well after that to extend the game through whatever it was, 6 innings or 5-6 innings to get us to our bullpen there on a Friday night, which is important. We're gonna need Gage obviously to pitch well because you don't want to have to go into your bullpen. I've said this before, especially on Friday night early when you got 2 other games left. I'm happy with the progress that the starting pitching has done over the last few weekends. We need Gage to pitch better. There's no doubt. He knows that as well. But no, it's too early to be making decisions like that.
Gino, I know you talked about leaving guys on. That's a product of guys trying to do too much and just not taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty good so far, again. But I think we were 3 for 18 with runners in scoring position. The good news is we had 18 guys in scoring position, but the bad news is we only got 3 hits. And I want to say we were 1 for 9 with 2 outs. We had a number of situations with 2 outs, bases loaded. We hit a semi-line drive last night. The shortstop and got doubled off to end the inning. We had another situation too where we didn't get it done, but it's 1 game. My goodness, that's going to happen it's going to happen more than 1 game. I'm not worried about it, but I think it is certainly a reflection of guys maybe just being a little too anxious, trying to do too much, and that's why I was saying earlier, we swung at so many first pitches and didn't get much out of it. Just bad approaches with first pitch swings there. So, we talked about it. We'll work on it, but you come out the next game, you play Florida, and they might be attacking you, going right after you. We need to be ready to swing the bat. I don't have a problem with us swinging at first pitch. We just need to do a better job of giving a good approach.
You spoke about the midweek games against good opponents, especially in-state opponents.
Yeah.
They're always going to be tough, but that's a good thing.
It is. FAU, I would say, it's got one of their better clubs I've seen there in a while. Certainly offensively, they swing the bat. They got a lot of left-handed hitters. And the few guys they don't are switch hitters. I think they had 1 maybe straight up righty or 2, but it's all lefties and switch hitters, and we have a lot of righties. Our staff happens to be a lot of right-handers, and so it's a good matchup, I guess, for them. But we still got to be able to pitch and do the things right. Look, we had a situation in the game last night where we had a weak ground ball hit to our pitcher, and he kind of let it go for whatever reason. He thought he was going to deflect it, and we ended up getting an error. That run got on base. We walked the next guy, and the guy hits a 3-run home run. That should have been an out. It was an easy play. Should have been an out. That should have been a 2-run home run. It's a tie game, and then, of course, you could do that with baseball all the time. Of course, all the things that we said about us not doing well as guys in scoring position. So, but FAU, we're going to play them 3 more times. It's 4 this year. And like I said, it's probably one of their better clubs. And like you're alluding to, teams in the state are very, very good. I mean, there's a lot of good talent in the state of Florida. So that should help us. We want to win these games. We don't want to come out on the losing end like last night, which we've been fortunate. I think our record's been very, very good in midweek games over the last 5 years. So it's 1 game. My goodness, we're not going to go nuts over it.
Coach, Blake Sear has had an amazing start to the season. Was this something that you were expecting? Are you surprised at all at his play? Can you just expand on him?
I don't know if you expect kind of the start that he had. He swung the bat well in the fall and in the early spring, and so you can see his tools and his strengths are his bat speed, quickness of his bat. He's got some pop, and he can run. So I couldn't come out and say, yeah, he's going to be second in our team in RBIs, right behind Yo-Yo, and hitting over 400 or whatever he's hitting right now, and he's gotten off to a great start. But we did like when Blake stepped on campus, the way he played the game. He's got a lot of energy and a lot of passion, and I think that a lot of guys, it feeds off of a lot of guys. For a freshman coming in, he seems to be a very well-liked player by our guys, which is good. Usually freshmen have to kind of feel their way through, and he's kind of come in and he's right in your face, and which is good in a good way. And so very, very happy though. It's hard nowadays for freshmen to come in and play right away with all the portal and the transfers and having to battle all these veteran guys.
Right.
I mean, you're competing against guys that have been in college maybe for 4 or 5 years. That means physically, guys have gotten stronger in college for 4 or 5 years, and mentally. So for a freshman to come in right away and play, it's gotten harder, and it is harder. So for him to do it's been really well for us.
We'll do a few more for Gino.
Coach, what are you expecting the environment to be like in Gainesville this weekend? And how do you guys deal with tough road atmospheres?
Yeah, so the environment there, it's a new ballpark. We played there a couple years ago. I guess we were their first opponent in their ballpark. And it's a beautiful ballpark. It's a little bit farther away than their old ballpark, which was kind of on top of you. Theirs is a little bit farther away. I don't know what the crowds will be like. They were pretty good when we played there before. But what I told the guys is that last night is the game's still played on the field. You're going to have people yelling and screaming, and you got to be able to block that stuff out. There is nothing like playing well on the road and silencing a crowd. We were able to do that a few years ago and win the series. But the game is still the same. The mound's still the same distance. The base is still the same distance. You can't change the way you're playing the game because all of a sudden you're in a different environment. That you cannot do. So, but it'll be a good test. It'll be our second road game. Obviously, playing at FAU be a little bit different, a little bit bigger crowd, bigger stadium. But it was good that we did kind of get our feet wet in terms of playing on the road last night before we went there.
Coach, after hitting leadoff in 366 last year, CJ was moved into the 3-4 spot around this year. What's your thought process behind that, and how do you think he's been stepping up to that role?
Well, there's a couple things to it. One, we did it. We thought that Dario, who's been leading off for us, which is such an important part of our success of our team. Hence, CJ last year doing so well. Dario's been leading off, and of course now we've kind of flipped him a little bit. Him and Eddie, depending on the lefty and righty. We need to get Dario going. To me, it starts there at the top. Dario's got 40 at bats, and he's only walked twice. He's only scored 3 runs. He has hit some balls hard, but he still needs to get on base more. You don't have to hit for a high average to get on base. CJ's not hitting for a high average, but his on base is like 130, 40 points higher than his batting average because he still walks and doesn't strike out a lot. So we need to get that leadoff guy going because we'd like CJ. The thought is I wanted him and Yo-Yo being our 2 best hitters in the lineup to hit together. I thought they could feed off of each other. We'll see if that works. It's still early in the season. It's worked so far in terms of our team scoring runs. And CJ's just pressing a little bit. He's one of the guys I think is a little bit anxious. He's getting up there swinging at a lot of first pitches and not getting really much out of it. So we need him to have that mentality of, getting better at bats, not being so anxious, not pressing. Last year's a leadoff guy for us. Normally you're leading off just the first inning, by the way, but he would swing at first pitches, but he was pretty successful at doing that. So we just need him to relax and be CJ and not try to be somebody else, which I had that conversation with. Whether I hit him 1, 3, or 4, I do not want him changing his approach at all. And he knows that.
Role on the team at all now that he's a junior, when it comes to mentoring the younger guys?
Well, CJ's a pretty quiet guy. He's not going to say a whole lot. He just goes about his business, very professional in how he works and everything's very steady, very consistent. So